Hi, I'm Graeme Philipson from Connection Research. I'm going to be talking about the Green IT framework and how it brings structure and metrics to Green IT. We've been researching Green IT for some time now. My own background is as a IT industry market analyst, and we've tried to bring some of the techniques of the IT industry analysis capabilities, techniques, disciplines into sustainability. There's a big crossover between sustainability and IT, and that is Green IT. And that's where we do a lot of our work. So this presentation is going to talk a lot about the different aspects of Green IT and how we see how it works. But first of all, let's think back 10 years ago. A lot of people used to talk about corporate governance and how corporate governance's job was to ensure that management worked properly. That's what governance means. Governance means overseeing management to ensure it does what it wants. So corporate governance used to oversee IT governance, which used to oversee IT management. Now that still happens, but consider what happens nowadays. If you want to be a green organisation, IT has a major role. Just as IT had a major role in corporate governance, because corporate governance is all about information, so IT has a major role in green or sustainability or environmentalism, because ultimately it's IT that does a lot of the things. It's IT which is the monitors sustainability and different aspects of it. It's IT which is the information repository, and it's IT that provides the reporting tools. So just as you can't do good corporate governance without IT and good IT management, you cannot become a green organisation without using IT as a green enabler, and ultimately that means green IT, or certainly it's one aspect of green IT. So why is green IT happening now? Why didn't it happen 5 years ago or 5 years hence? Well, there's lots of reasons. As we all know, IT issues, or sustainability issues, are gaining much larger prominence in society nowadays. It's just a big thing. You can't open the newspaper or turn on television without hearing about sustainability and the debates surrounding it. Power bills are going up. All around the world, power bills are only going in one direction. Now this is happening because some people are putting a price on carbon. It's happening because electricity grids are being upgraded. It's happening because people are anticipating carbon trading being initiated. In some cases it's already happening. So power bills are rising, and rising very quickly. And the power consumption of IT is going up. Even though we're doing things like virtualisation and turning off our computers a bit more, the actual overall power consumption of IT continues to rise. Not only is it rising, it's becoming more visible. We found in our research that a lot of people don't even know, like most IT departments don't even know the power consumption of their IT department. But that's changing now as we're getting smart metering, and as the cost of power of IT means that increasingly the power of IT, or the power consumption of IT, is being included in the IT budget. And in many countries, including Australia, the UK, perhaps soon in the US, many countries in Europe, carbon emissions reporting is becoming mandatory. You've got to say, by law, how many tonnes of carbon or carbon dioxide equivalent your organisation is emitting, which is a reporting function which comes back to IT. I could probably add some other things to that list, but there's a lot of reasons why green IT is happening now, apart from the fact that it's just a good idea. Now, why do we need a framework for green IT? Well, there are a lot of reasons. The main one is, as I said in my introduction, there's no clear definition. People don't know what green IT means. You talk to different people and they've got different ideas. To some people it's turning your computers off, to some people it's getting rid of printer cartridges in an environmentally friendly fashion, in some people it's about server and storage virtualization. So it means different things to different people. Also, there's many different aspects to green IT, many phases to it. There's no one thing that is green IT. There are many things that are green IT. So a framework is a standardised way of representing these components of green IT. It also provides a consistent structure, a reference point for further analysis. Now, we started working on this framework a couple of years ago, and independently of us, RMIT University in Melbourne was doing a similar thing. We both had a similar approach to this, and it happened almost at the same time and remarkably similar methodologies. So we got together, and it made sense that we agreed to combine the two things we were doing into a single framework and a consistent methodology. Since we did that 18 months ago, the framework that we developed has been substantially refined. We've spoken to lots of users and vendors, academics, consultants, a whole range of people who have input into our framework. It started out quite simply. Connection Research, you see on the left of the screen there, we came up with a thing we called the pentagram. Couldn't call it a pentagon. Even pentagram's not correct, technically speaking correct, because it's a sort of 5-pointed star. We called it a pentagram anyway, because we saw that there were 5 different aspects to green IT: enabling the business, end user efficiencies, data center efficiencies, procurement and life cycle, and measuring and monitoring the whole process. RMIT University had a slightly different approach. They came up with a concept called G readiness, which we ourselves had also thought of. Don't know who came first. And they had a hierarchical structure. They broke it into attitude, policy, practice, technology and governance. Then each of those was broken out further, as you can see on the slide. Now, we got together and thought, let's combine our 2 frameworks, and essentially we came up with something that looks a bit like this. Looks a lot like this, actually, because this is actually it. We have 4 different, what we call pillars of green IT. There's 4 different major areas of green IT that we've identified. There's the equipment life cycle, from procurement through to disposal. There's end user computing, everything the end user is in charge of, as opposed to the IT department. There's enterprise and data center computing, which is basically the IT department area. And there's the very important area of IT as a low carbon enabler, the usage of IT to help the rest of the organisation reduce its carbon input, or carbon output, carbon emissions. Now, across these 4 pillars, we have 5 what we call actions. There's the attitude. What do you think about green IT? What's it all about? There's policy. What have you done? What has your organisation done to help people understand what you're trying to do with green IT? There's practice. Policy is all right, but you've got to actually put that policy into practice. What are you actually doing? There's technology. And some people think of green IT as technology alone, such as virtualisation. But a lot of green IT is about what you do, practice and policy, that we just looked at there. And the 3rd or 5th of the last, but not least, of the actions are metrics. How do you measure the whole thing? How do you move from measuring through to monitoring, which is constant measuring, through to managing, and finally mitigating, finally reducing the carbon emissions of both the IT department and the whole organisation. So that's the whole framework, if you like. It's a combination of what we came up with at Connection Research, what RMIT came up with, and the 3rd major input was from lots of individuals who suggested we add this or change that. For example, we put equipment at the life cycle at the beginning rather than it was at the end, because that's where it all starts. So a few small things like that. Putting outsourcing and cloud computing in, including software architecture, splitting personal computing into desktop and mobile. Lots of small and large changes, but we're pretty happy that this is now a very mature framework. It's been widely used by us, by RMIT University, and by a lot of our business partners and users. We use it in our own consultancy, and a lot of other people now in about 4 or 5 different countries of the world are using this framework. So we've got these 4 pillars that we just looked at. Let's look at them each in turn. Life cycle is easy enough to explain. Procurement, what you buy, how you use it, and then disposal, how you get rid of stuff at the end of its life cycle in an environmentally friendly fashion. The second area is end user computing. Personal computing, both at the desktop and mobile level. Departmental computing, that's can be quite large scale computing, but outside of the data centre, outside of the IT department. End users doing computing, sometimes using comparatively large servers and almost being mini IT departments in their own right. And the 3rd major area, printing and consumables. Printing is a very dirty task. It's a very energy-consuming, high energy consumption task, and it's very high carbon emissions function. So that's under the control of the end user. And the next enterprise and data center. This is one that's attracting a lot of attention lately because of the sheer amount of energy that data centers consume. And of course, in data centers, there's 2 things, 2 major types of equipment: the IT equipment itself, and all the ancillaries, the environmentals, the chillers and humidifiers, etc., that keep it all cool, stop it being so hot. Now that can often use up more energy than the IT equipment itself. Then you've got your networking on top of that. You've got the whole area of outsourcing and cloud computing becoming a big area and something that Green IT is talking about a lot. And then the very important area of software architecture. The fourth of our pillars is IT as a low carbon enabler. And I mentioned earlier that this is probably the most important because if IT is about 2 or 3% of the whole world's carbon emissions, and that's about the figure that most people agree on, then you could halve the energy consumption or the carbon output of IT and make a comparatively small difference. Where IT can make the big difference is in improving the rest of the organisation, the so-called other 98%. And teleworking, collaboration, better supply chain management, better business processes, better logistics, more efficient business applications, monitoring and mitigating the carbon emissions of the whole organisation. Very important area. Then, as I mentioned, we've got our 5 what we call actions: attitude, policy, practice, technology, and the very important one of metrics. You can't manage what you can't measure. So how does this framework work, and how do we take it beyond a framework into doing benchmarking and other work? Well, each pillar is affected by each of the 5 actions. That's easy enough. That's why we have this matrix structure, which we've just looked at. Then if we survey people, this is what we do, we go and survey CIOs and IT departments about the extent to which they're enacting each component in the pillar. And we can apply that as across the actions. Have you developed an end-user policy? Are you implementing certain technologies? Are you measuring certain things? So we ask people a whole range of questions in our survey about what sorts of things they are doing in Green IT, and we break it into each of these 5 areas. Then once we've done that, we can quantify. The way we ask the questions is that we can quantify the data, or quantify what they've said, their responses, and turn these into a series of indices, one for each of our pillars, and then an overall index based on those indices. So here's our framework. We've got 4 pillars and a big action at the bottom called metrics. That gives us 5 areas. We use metrics in our benchmarking and our metrics as one of 5 areas that we measure. We measure equipment life cycle, we measure end user computing, we measure enterprise and data center issues, we measure the extent to which the organisation is using IT as a low carbon enabler, and we measure the measurement. We measure how well organisations are applying metrics across all of these different areas. And we use a very simple method of rating these actions and behaviours. It's an idea called the capability maturity model. It's been around about 40 years. It came out of Carnegie Mellon University in the US. And it basically uses a 5-point or 1 to 5 system of determining where somebody is on a scale of action or capability. A lot of people have added a 0 level, which we are using also, as I've never even thought about it. So when applied to Green IT or different aspects of Green IT, we can come up with a 0 to 5 scale. I've never even thought about this particular action or technology. I've just started doing it. I'm doing it a lot. I'm managing it properly right through to optimise or best practice. I'm doing it as well as I possibly could, or really as well as anybody could. So we've developed an online survey that takes 30 or 40 minutes to complete with questions on each aspect of the framework. They're all quantified according to this capability maturity model. And we don't ask technical questions about energy consumption. We ask questions about what policies have you implemented? How well have you implemented them? How well are you measuring them? What sorts of practices do you have? What sorts of technologies have you introduced, etc. And then once we've got all that data, we've got a benchmarking tool, because it's all quantified, normalised. We collect all the data, clean the data up. Sometimes you get, shall we say, dodgy responses, which need to be ironed out. And then each response is applied. Every question that we ask, and it's about 100 questions, grouped in about 20 different major question groups. A lot of it's matrices, of a list of questions on a 1 to 5, and the following list of things. How have you done stuff? Plus, as I mentioned, we use metrics as one of our pillars as well. So that means for each of our 4 pillars and metrics, we have an index. We take all the questions that apply to that pillar and then apply it against the appropriate appropriate pillar, which allows us to come up with some numbers, some metrics. And we've developed an overall index, which we call the Green IT Readiness Index, GRITX. And it's a scale of 1 to 100, comprising our 5 sub-indices in each of our pillars. This allows, once you've got metrics, you can start to measure and manage. Allows for benchmarking between industries, between companies, between countries, and you can benchmark yourself over time to see how you're improving or changing. Anyway, one hopes you're improving. So it ends up being a unique tool for quantifying maturity or readiness or how well somebody's doing green IT. For example, you can measure function within a pillar. Here's a measure of a number of different questions we ask about metrics. Have you measured IT's power consumption? Have you done a total organisational energy audit? Have you done energy benchmarking of IT? Do you measure the power output or the power input, the power consumption of IT? Do you have a separate green IT budget? So each of these questions can be quantified, and then we can start to do some comparisons. We can measure by industry sector, because when we ask the question, we ask people what industry sector they're in. So that allows us then to look at the indices across the different sectors. This particular chart's a bit busy, but it's from our recent Australian study, our second annual Australian study, and it shows that the most efficient or most mature industry sector is government, administration and defence, with an overall rating of about 60 or so. And the least is wholesale and retail and logistics, who are right down in the 40s. Now the metrics are relative to each other. It's a benchmarking tool that allows you to measure one person against the other. The absolute figure is by itself meaningless. It only becomes meaningful when it's compared to other things. So you see on the right there the spider or the radar chart that shows the government's figure, which is in the yellow, compared to the overall average. And government exceeds the average on just about every one of our 5 indices. We can measure over time. Here's the chart that shows our first Australian survey in 2009 compared to our second Australian survey in 2010. You can see that the overall Green IT Readiness Index has gone up from 39.5 to 49.2, which essentially means people have got about 10 percentage points, which is like 20% better, about a quarter better than they were. Life cycle, which is disposal, actually went backwards a bit. That's the area that mostly looks at things like green IT procurement, buying things that haven't had a lot of carbon in their production, right through to how well you recycle or get rid of old IT equipment or consumables. Didn't go up, it actually went marginally backwards. People think they've done that. They haven't. It used to be the highest area, now it's only the 3rd highest. End user IT, end user green IT, went up significantly. A lot of publicity in the last year about turning your computers off, PC power management issues, and that's really hit home in Australia on these numbers between the 2 surveys. The really big growth area in the last year was enterprise computing, mainly data centre stuff. There's been an enormous amount of publicity, seminars, consultants talking about it, journalists writing about it, and people actually doing it. People are now really aware of enterprise data centre energy efficiency issues, and they're really starting to act on it, and that shows up in our data. Enablement, the usage of IT to lower carbon footprint overall, getting better but still a long way to go. Similarly, metrics was the worst, or along with enterprise, one of the worst, but now is by far the worst. People just haven't got it. It's not in this presentation, but for example, we found that 2/3 of IT departments haven't even measured the energy consumption of IT. So if you can't even start that basic process, you can't get far. So even though the index has increased or improved a fair bit over time or over the last 12 months, it's still got a long way to go. So that allows us then to do benchmarking. Here's a fictitious company, Acme Wholesaling, and we can use our benchmarking tool to compare Acme against other companies in the wholesale and retail industry and the cross-industry average. And you see in the spider diagram at the bottom right there that Acme does very, very well in most areas, but falls down in metrics. It does the stuff, but doesn't know how well it's doing. Now this technique we use quite consistently to benchmark organisations against their peers, other organisations of their size or in their industry, and as I said earlier, to measure themselves over time. A very useful tool. You've got to have the metrics though before you can do much else. So there's a lot of benefits, we believe, with benchmarking. It brings metrics to policy and performance. How can you tell how well you're doing green IT if you don't have any metrics to tell you how well you're doing? It brings structure, most of all, to how an organisation approaches green IT. IT needs structure. IT, to most people, green IT is an amorphous mass. By developing this framework, what we've done is enable people to break green IT up into digestible chunks. And then by applying metrics to each of those chunks, we can build up small indices in particular areas, and then build that up into a larger index that helps us measure all sorts of things, including changes over time and comparisons between different organisations. Now, this benchmarking tool that we've developed, we believe it to be the only one of its type in the world. We've had people come to us from all over the world asking if they can use it, and we're licensing it to a number of organisations. Now, it's not a difficult concept, but no one else seems to have done it. And we search a lot. We look around to see who else has done this sort of stuff, and there's really nobody out there. I'm happy to say, but in a way sad to say, unique. It seems to us to be a logical way of approaching green IT. We've done it in Australia 2 years in a row now. We've surveyed CIOs about how well they're doing green IT. We get about 200, 250 responses each time. We've just finished in April 2010 a survey of the United Kingdom government. We did the Australian government in October 2009, and that surveys the entire, not everybody responded, but UK government, central government and local government agencies and councils about how well they're doing green IT. One really interesting thing about that UK one, by the way, was that the greenest government organisation who answered the survey was Brighton and Hove City Council. Now, Brighton was the only place in the UK that elected a Green Member of Parliament in the recent election, in the 2010 election. So interesting that the local council there seems to be as green as its voters. We're currently being June 2010, conducting a survey of non-government users in the UK and in the US. At this stage, just on the east coast of the US. It's hard to do the whole US at once. It's a big place. So we're concentrating initially on the band from sort of Chicago, Pennsylvania, up into New England and down as far as Washington DC and Virginia. So the northeast, the industrialised northeast of the US. Then we'll move to the west coast and the Midwest and the south. India, we did a survey recently just in April 2010 of the Mumbai area of India, and that's currently being expanded out into other areas of India. And we've had discussions with a couple of separate people in Scandinavia from both Denmark and Sweden about doing a similar exercise across Scandinavia. And we're also talking with people in Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines and Singapore about doing a similar exercise in ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So we believe, and we certainly hope, that this standard, this benchmark that we've developed, will become an international standard for understanding and measuring green IT. So final slide. We're allowed to have one slide on ourselves. Connection Research does a lot of work in green IT. We do the surveying. From the surveying, we do benchmarking. And I've talked a bit about the benchmarking. That then allows us to do training. One good thing about having a benchmark that breaks green IT down into its components is that then gives you a structure that allows you to look at the different areas of green IT in terms of teaching people about understanding them. We've got 2 training courses: the Fundamentals of Green IT, a one-day course that takes technical and non-technical people through the framework, through the different aspects of the framework, through the benchmarking system, and shows people how to implement green IT. The other course that we've developed is on carbon emissions management software. the usage of IT to measure the carbon emissions of the organisation. This is an area that is still in its infancy. A bit of a boost last year when mandatory reporting came into being, but subsequently a bit of a lull after the comparative failure of Copenhagen. But this is not going to go away. People are increasingly having to report on their carbon emissions, and it's the IT function which is basically going to be responsible and is becoming responsible for this process. Another exercise we've done very recently, very important and I think interesting exercise, we modelled the entire carbon footprint of the Australian IT industry. A giant series of 11 spreadsheets modelling the carbon output, the energy consumption and carbon emissions of every IT device in Australia. 12 million PCs, for example, 8 million games consoles, and by taking the average emissions of every device, taking into account its usage patterns, modelling that out across every industry sector and every state and territory of Australia to come up with a full picture. And the ACS, Australian Computer Society, has recently released that report as a major input into the debate over IT and carbon emissions and what IT can do about carbon emissions. And we, through at Connection Research, through all of this work, have developed a green IT consultancy. So we now go out to organisations and help them do green IT by doing our benchmarking and using our framework and undertaking our training. So a lot of work in green IT. We've been at it for some years, and I suspect we'll be at it for a couple more years yet. There's our contact details. You can read them there on the screen, or get in touch with Computers Off, and easy enough to get in touch with me. My name again is Graeme Philipson. Thanks very much for listening to this presentation, and if you've got any queries, please get in touch and I'll be very happy to speak with you. Thanks a lot. Hi, my name's Graeme Philipson from Connection Research. I'm going to be talking about the Green IT framework and how a framework can bring structure and metrics to green IT. We at Connection Research have been looking into green IT, researching it for a couple of years now. My own background is as an IT market analyst with Gartner and others, and in Connection Research we're trying to bring some of the analytical techniques of the IT industry into the sustainability field. Sustainability is a big area, and a very large part of sustainability is green IT. And with the green IT background that we have, or the IT background, we've used a lot of the IT and analytical techniques into sustainability, and particularly in green IT. So let's think back 10 years ago, if you can remember that far. Remember about early 2000, we talked a lot about corporate governance. And corporate governance was a lot to do with how you oversee the management of management. Oversee the management of management. Blah. I'm going to stop it now. Hi, my name's Graeme Philipson from Connection Research. I'm going to be talking about the Green IT framework that we've developed in conjunction with some other people, and the structure and the metrics that this brings to green IT. There's been a lot of talk about green IT, and indeed that's the whole reason we're having this Awareness Week. It's all about raising people's understanding of and knowledge of green IT. Now, our company Connection Research has been talking about green IT for a couple of years now. We do a lot of research into the subject. We survey CIOs, we survey users, and we built up a large body of knowledge on green IT and what it means. I'm having trouble again getting to the next slide. It goes there. I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this a couple of times. I'm going to stop this recording now. Hi everybody, Graeme Philipson here at Connection Research. I'm going to be talking about a Green IT framework and structure and metrics. This is a presentation for International Green IT Awareness Week 2010. The things I'll be talking about today are to do with structure and framework, green IT, surprise, surprise. But even though it's a special presentation for Green IT Week, a lot of the things I'll be talking about are applicable to a lot of different things in green IT. At the moment, this is just a sample test. I'm having trouble moving to the next slide is my problem at the moment. Multiple slides here, but I can't seem to get on to the next one by any method. There we go. Slide 2, slide 1, slide 2. See how that is. I'm going to stop the recording now.